Welcome to the Three Thought Podcast. And this time we have begun a little side project about the NBA because I follow the NBA a lot, and so does our producer Rasmus. He's maybe the biggest basketball mind we have in the studies. So
yeah, I have followed the NBA for a lot of years and played basketball myself for about 10 years. And yeah, I have found a common person to talk about the NBA.
Yeah, we talk a lot about the NBA, especially when we're moving towards the postseason, where it gets kind of interesting, and you're beginning to see some kind of a picture about how the playoffs will be. So this was the perfect time to actually start it, because after the All-Star break,
they have just begun playing again after the All-Star break. It was not this weekend, but last weekend. So
yeah, and there are interesting storylines this season, because it seems to be how should you say it, more competitive than we actually anticipated when comparing it to the beginning of the season.
But I would say it depends on if you see it in East and the West.
Yeah,
in the West, you still have the Golden State Warriors, who have been tremendously good over the past 4 or 5 years.
Annoyingly good.
Yeah, and they have just gotten better with DeMarcus Cousins coming back. So now they have a big man, and that they didn't have before. So so teams like in the East with like the 76ers with Joel Embiid, and you have the Boston Celtics with Baines and Al Horford, who can go in and be this big guy. You have a team in the Golden State Warriors who are just unbeatable.
So just basically the Toon Squad of the realistic NBA players.
Yeah, but I would still say if you see in the East, it is historically competitive this year. You have 4 or 5 teams who can go in and take the first seed in the East. It probably will be the Bucks, but when you come into the postseason, it depends on who gets the first 4 spots, so who gets the home court advantage in the first round, but also the 2 first spots, so number 1 and number 2, who gets the home advantage in the second round of the playoffs.
Yeah,
you saw last year with the Boston Celtics and the 76ers, where Boston won because they had home court advantage. So when you get into the playoffs, it depends in the East who gets the number 1 and the number 2 seed. Who gets into the Eastern Conference Finals. So
let's just begin this topic about our personal interest in the NBA. So obviously, I think you should start, Rasmus, because you have spent a great deal of your time on basketball.
Yeah, you could say I think I began to watch the NBA when I was around 11, 12 years old. When it started coming out on Danish television on DK4 with some of the people know, with Thomas and Peter from TV2 Sport now. I started watching a lot of games there, and also talked with my teammates in the basketball court about NBA, and had our idols like football players have with Ronaldo and Messi and so on. Then we could see that, we had Kobe Bryant, we had LeBron James. It's still some of the younger players have LeBron James now. And then you have some of the better players now, with Kevin Durant coming into the league around that time, and Steph Curry and all that. So I've seen the greatness of this period of basketball right now coming into session, and the change from what it was before with the 2-point field goals and moving on to the 3-pointers now, and that change in basketball. So it's quite fascinating.
Yeah, to actually see how the NBA has evolved in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
By the last 10 years alone.
Yeah.
So with me it's kind of a different story, because I followed the NBA, I think, for 3 years ago. 3 years ago, I started to follow the NBA, and one of the things that is really unusual comparing me to other NBA fans is that just like football, I started to play NBA 2K first. So, and it's the same thing with football, because I began playing FIFA when I was 12, 13 years old, and it was only afterwards I began to gain a general interest in football. So I played in football clubs and all those kind of things. And it's the same thing with basketball. I played NBA 2K, then I got interest in basketball. So now that's my hobby. So a different story than Rasmus, who used a great deal of his time perfecting his game. So, but I came later, because the 3-point were being utilized when I was watching the game. And I think the way basketball is played right now is what has attracted my attention, because I love the fast ball, small ball, the utilizing the 3-point. There's nothing like a long-range 3-point that gets my dick hard.
Yeah, I would still say that going back in the days, I love that way of playing basketball better, with a player like Tim Duncan, for example, going in, showing how good of a basketball player you can be, not just going out shooting 3-pointers, but actually playing the game. Take, for example, a player like Nikola Jokic right now. I think he's a great example of how basketball should be played. He can go out and shoot the 3-pointer, but he's a big man, so he can go in with his back to the basket and post up. But he can also, you can utilize the play with him. You can pass the ball into him. You can have 4 other guys going around the 3-point line, and then he can provide the ball to them. Yeah. So you also have the same with a person like Marc Gasol. For me, he has the best nickname in the NBA, actually, with the Big Burrito. So I think it's a great name, but that's for another time. But he can also go in, and for me, the Toronto Raptors right now, because they got Marc Gasol right now, they have a really, really good chance to go into the finals and actually play up with the Bucks right now, because they have Kawhi Leonard, who, in my opinion, is the best defensive player in the league. He can go in and he can match up with Giannis. He's probably the only one who can stop Giannis one-on-one in the league. And the same way around, Giannis can stop every player in the league almost.
Giannis is probably the only player in the history of the NBA where you can truly say he can guard all 5 positions. I think so.
Yeah.
Because no one has been as big as him with his kind of reach, and at the same time have the same lateral quickness as guards. That's really special with Giannis.
Yeah, I would actually say you can almost compare him to Ben Simmons in some ways, but Giannis still have this Greek freak look. Yeah. He has those long arms and that wide wingspan. So in my mind, he's a freak in the way he plays. He can take one dribble from the middle almost and go in and dunk the ball.
I think he can take 5 strides with half court. 5 strides.
Yeah.
That's just crazy. And also, when you look at Giannis dunk, I haven't seen anything like him when it comes to dunking.
I would say, going back in the days, you had a player like or an younger version of LeBron James. Yeah. He was this athletic guy who can go in and dunk on everyone.
Yeah, but I think that, but even when I'm comparing him to LeBron James, right, the way his length is just crazy.
Yeah, I would say the length is one thing, but the basketball IQ of LeBron James,
that's
you haven't seen a person like that ever in the NBA.
No.
You have some great minds in Chris Paul right now and Steph Curry and I can't go back. You have John Stockton, who's the all-time leader in assists.
Yeah.
But he had Karl Malone, they just use the pick and roll and then an assist for Stockton. But LeBron James, he can read the play in a way that is on another planet.
Yeah, it is. I mean, his basketball IQ is just on a different level, also because I would probably argue that Chris Paul has the same kind of IQ, but LeBron is just that much taller, and the way he can throw the ball is not the way he throws the ball is very different to what Chris Paul can do.
Yeah. But I would still say LeBron James has this other level of play.
Yeah.
When you go in, I saw a quote that he was out saying, because right now the Lakers aren't inside the playoffs in the Western Conference. I think they're in the 9th place, but have the same amount of losses as Sacramento.
I also think that they're on the 10th now because Timberwolves actually.
Yeah.
They're tied with Timberwolves actually.
Yeah. So, but I saw LeBron James went out in the media and said, we need to turn playoff mode on now.
Yeah, because.
And I think it's a great quote, because when you see LeBron James in the regular season over the past seasons and then in the postseason, it's a huge difference.
LeBron in the playoffs is the boogeyman of the NBA.
Yeah.
It's crazy the way he just switches on and just becomes. I don't know. It's just a different level when it comes to the playoffs. Because imagine how bad the Cleveland squad was last year. He took them to the finals. He swept the Raptors.
I would say going back to 2005, I think it was
2007.
Yeah, with the squad he had then, compared to the squad he had last year, the squad he had Kevin Love, who is a pretty good player in the NBA. He didn't have that in 2007, and he went to the NBA Finals.
No.
He got swept by the Spurs, but he still went to the NBA Finals.
Yeah, I mean, the whole identity about the 07 Cleveland Cavaliers was that LeBron James is the focal point of the offense, and all the other guys just be on defense.
And that's why I would say that the Eastern Conference is so competitive right now, because it's the first time in 15 years that you don't have a LeBron James in the East. So the Eastern Conference is open for a new or for a new team to go out and get this spot. And I think it is from 2009. I think it was that LeBron James have been in the finals every year.
Yeah.
I think it's later than that. I can't quite remember. But
when he was in the NBA finals, first time it was 07. Then it was 2011 against the Mavericks.
Oh yeah. So it's from 2011 and then straight on to 2018.
Yeah.
So it's a quite long period of time where another squad than a squad where LeBron James was in couldn't go through the East.
And you have to remember, it's 82 games in a regular season in the NBA. That's the scary thing about how well conditioned his body is, that he's able to perform at that high of a level.
Yeah.
So let's talk about who's the favorite player, like all time and current NBA.
I would say all time it must be LeBron James. Not LeBron James. Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan?
Yeah, Michael Jordan. Not LeBron James. It's just because we talked about LeBron James.
Yeah, sure.
No, Michael Jordan. I would say he's the GOAT, the greatest of all time, because he was so tremendously good at what he did. And I can't remember how many MVPs he won and all that.
5 MVPs.
Yeah. And LeBron James have 4 right now.
Yeah.
So, first of all, you have that to compare. I don't think that LeBron James will win another MVP in his time in the league.
No, I don't think so either, because, his name has been too much compared to, mentioned too much in the MVP conversation. So, you get tired of a name.
I would say if I need to pick a player in the league now, before it was Kevin Durant, because I'm Oklahoma City Thunder supporter, but he went on to the Warriors and just
fucked the league up.
You could say it like that, but he went to the best squad of all time with 73 wins in the season. Then they got an All-NBA first-team player on that team. For me, I can't think why he should do that, because he could win the league or the NBA with the Oklahoma City Thunders at that time.
And he didn't need to go to Golden State to do that. Really,
exactly.
It was just he wanted to secure an NBA title.
Yeah, so for me, that I lost a lot of respect for Kevin Durant with that move. But I think it's hard to say who's my favorite player in the league right now is, because there are so many great players. But I really like Giannis Antetokounmpo right now because he plays the way he does. But also a player like Kawhi Leonard, because he can go both ways.
Yeah.
He can be the offensive star, but he can also totally shut down in the defensive area. So I think I would go with Kawhi Leonard because he is this dynamic player. But there is a lot of upcoming guys coming up right now. I really look forward to see Zion Williamson in the NBA.
That's gonna be crazy.
But I would also say in a few years, maybe next year already, Luka Doncic. I want to see how good a player he can be, because
that's my guy.
Because I think he can go to another level than a player like Dirk Nowitzki right now, who I would think is the greatest European player in the league. So, or of all time in the league, not the greatest right now because you have Giannis, but of all time you have Dirk Nowitzki, who probably is the best European player or non-American player to be in the league.
Sure. When it comes to... I haven't spent a lot of years watching the NBA, so I don't have an all-time favorite player because my current favorite player is Chris Paul. That's why I became a Clippers fan.
The Bulldog.
Yeah, because the thing about Chris Paul is I relate a lot to him in the way he plays, because now obviously I didn't play basketball, but I played a lot of football in my younger days, and the way he plays, I like to think that's how I played. And so but following Chris Paul, it's just pure agony actually, because it just breaks my heart every time that something just goes in the way of him reaching an NBA Finals or reaching a title. Yeah. I mean, in his year with the Clippers, I mean, it was just pure disappointment because they were so good that they could win an NBA title. They could actually beat the Warriors.
But going back with the Clippers over the years, they have so many injuries. Yeah, take Blake Griffin in what should have been his prime. He was injured all the time when going into the playoffs. So
I mean, the first year that Chris Paul reaches the playoffs with the Clippers, they are already out of the first round because Blake Griffin got injured.
Yeah.
Then the year after that, they actually go into the second round against OKC. That notorious game against OKC where
I remember.
They got robbed that game. They just got robbed in Game 5, and then they finished the business in the Game 6. But that was the only year where they didn't have injuries.
Yeah.
Then the year after that, they actually beat the San Antonio Spurs, and he pulled his hamstring in Game 7, still played and made that game-winning shot. That was the time where it just cemented that my favorite player is Chris Paul.
But taking that I want to go back to my favorite player of all time. I also need to say Kobe Bryant.
Yeah, Kobe Bryant.
He was so good a player to watch play.
Yeah.
The way he could move, the way he played basketball, it was mind-blowing seeing that as a basketball player.
Yeah,
you wanted to be like him. Sure. He was the guy to be like.
Yeah, definitely. And going back to the Chris Paul thing, I mean, then they blew that 3-1 lead over Houston Rockets. That's the biggest disappointment in my time as a Clippers fan. When I was watching, they were in front with 12 points, 15 points, and then Josh Smith, out of all people, just catches fire.
Yeah.
That was the most ridiculous thing I ever saw. And then year after that, they were in front of Portland 2-0, Chris Paul and Blake Griffin injured, and then the year after that, the last year, Chris Paul and Blake Griffin they play. But Blake Griffin gets injured against the Utah Jazz, and they also lose that game 7. So that's my favorite player. But I don't have an all-time favorite player before Chris Paul. But I can actually name you one player I think is going to be my next favorite after Chris Paul, and that is Luka Doncic. For several reasons, because I'm a Real Madrid fan. So I was actually a Luka Doncic fan before he came to the NBA. I knew how good he was in the EuroLeague. I mean, playing EuroLeague at the age of 19 and become an MVP.
I would say he's an NBA star right now.
He is.
He's 19 years old.
Yeah.
He plays like a veteran in the NBA. He fools around with passes, and he's so unimpressed with the players there. So he just go in, plays his game. No, he just go and plays his game, and I think it's mind blowing. Yeah. He's younger than us.
Yeah, he is. I'm 23.
I'm just mind blown watching him play.
But one of the things that I just love about Luka Doncic is that he is fearless. He said before going into the NBA that he probably see himself scoring more buckets because the NBA defense is much easier to score in than the EuroLeague. Who says that at the age of 19 going into the best league in the world?
But I would say if you have watched EuroLeague, you can see that the most important in EuroLeague or in European basketball is defense. You focus so much on defense. You don't do that in the NBA.
It's more of an offensive game.
Yeah, it's. I would say that, or you could argue, I would say that the NBA is a show league. It is still the best players in the world playing there, but they also put on a show for the people watching the games.
Yeah. One of the most surprising stats regarding Luka Doncic is his point production when in clutch situations, where his field goal percentage is 50%. That's just ridiculous as a rookie. I mean, if you haven't seen Luka Doncic play, type in Luka Doncic clutch plays for this season, because it's actually absolutely ridiculous the kind of shots he made. My favorite one is the one against Portland.
Oh, yeah.
That corner three where he just throws it up in the air.
Yeah.
And even DeAndre Jordan, the center, he was like, what the fuck?
Yeah. So I would say that we should move on talking about the playoff picture right now.
Shall we talk about the storylines? I mean, just the playoff predictions.
Yeah, we can do that.
I mean, so yeah, there has been a lot of surprises this year. First of all, we had some interesting storylines because the first part in the beginning of the season, obviously, Luka Doncic was a storyline, but LeBron James to the Lakers was the biggest storyline because everyone was looking forward to see if LeBron James could drag the Lakers into the playoffs and have a successful playoff run. That nobody really doubted that he will.
I would also say that DeMarcus Cousins going to the Golden State Warriors, but also Paul George deciding to stay at the Thunder, and not going to the Lakers as so many thought.
Everyone thought that,
and then
he was a sure Laker.
Yeah, and then of course the big trade between the San Antonio Spurs and Toronto Raptors with Kawhi Leonard and DeMar DeRozan.
That's going to be interesting for the next season if he stays in Raptors. I hope he goes to the Clippers.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, Kawhi Leonard is a free agent this summer. When you're in NBA, you don't buy players as you do in football, in normal European football. You trade players, or then the players just go through their contract and then they become free agent. Then you have unrestricted free agent and restricted free agents.
Yeah, and Kawhi is an unrestricted free agent. That means that he can do whatever he wants.
Yeah, so if you're a restricted free agent, the team can go out and say we match this offer that another team has made for the player, regardless of their cap space. So they can give the same offer.
They can match the bid.
Yeah, they can match the bid, and then the player can choose if he wants to stay or go.
Yeah. So going back to the main storyline, LeBron to the Lakers. Lakers is in a very bad predicament right now because obviously they lost to the Grizzlies this night. It's really frustrated LeBron James because he has never been in this situation in almost 13 years.
Yeah.
I mean...
But I would still say most of the games they have lost over the past 2 months are because LeBron James was injured.
Sure.
So they have lost a lot of games where he couldn't play. So if he could have played those games, maybe they would have been just inside the playoffs.
They were actually in the 4th spot before he got injured.
Yeah.
But now they're in the 10th spot. Problem is now that...
11th. I have the standings here.
Yeah, so they're on the 11th right now. Problem is that since LeBron James has returned, they have won against big teams. They won against Celtics. They also won against... I can't remember what the team was. The last good team that won against... Yeah, I don't remember. But the problem is that they can win over good teams, but then they lose against bad teams, and I mean bad teams. They lost to now Grizzlies, they lost to Hawks, and they also lost to Pelicans with Anthony Davis with minute restrictions.
Yeah, but I would go back to the standings right now and talk about the East or the Western Conference because you have the Clippers with 34 wins and 28 losses.
Yeah.
In the 7th spot, and then you can go down to the 11th spot with the Lakers, who are 29 and 31. For me, because the Clippers have traded Tobias Harris away, they would go out of the playoffs.
Yeah.
And then I think it will be the Lakers because they have LeBron. He has another level.
Yeah.
The Timberwolves are better now, even though they had Jimmy Butler in the start of the season. They are better now than they were there because Jimmy Butler just gives problems to the entire team.
He's just a cancer in the locker room.
So I think the Clippers will go out, the Spurs will go up, and then it is going to be the Lakers or the Kings who are going to battle for the 8th seed.
Yeah, obviously, because Clippers, it's in their main interest to actually miss the playoffs because their pick is protected. If they reach the playoffs, their pick will automatically go to the Celtics. Yeah. So they want to lose their future games.
Yeah, and that's another story actually in the NBA right now. You have those some of the teams like the Suns, the Knicks, the Cavaliers, who will just go out. The best players will not play almost for the rest of the season, just so they can go down and get a better lottery pick. So with the lottery pick right now, for this year's draft, they changed it up. Before, the number one or the baddest team in the NBA would have 25% chance of getting the first pick, but now I think it's the 3 baddest team in the NBA will all get 14% chance of the first pick. So 3 teams have the same chance of getting the first pick.
Yeah.
And because Zion Williamson has gone out and said he is going to declare himself for the draft this year, everyone wants to go in and get the first pick.
Yeah, I mean, it's a stacked class. Yeah. The next rookie class is really stacked because, first of all, Zion Williamson... If you haven't seen the highlights of him, please do, because that's an athletic freak.
He's the new LeBron James.
Yeah.
He is.
I mean...
he actually, right now, if he was in the NBA right now, he would be the second heaviest person in the NBA. The only one who would be heavier, do you know who that is?
No.
Boban Marjanovic.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Boban
from 76ers.
Yeah.
And then they also have R.J. Barrett from Duke, who's also predicted to go second in the lottery pick. So
Duke has number 1 and number 2.
yeah, so it's going to be interesting in going into March Madness, but that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah, but if the Lakers go into the playoffs, every team they can meet will be afraid because they have LeBron James.
Yeah, I mean, the only one who probably isn't afraid of LeBron James is Golden State.
No, I think they will be. Because if you see the games they have played against the Golden State with LeBron James this year, it is so close because LeBron James is so much of a threat.
Yeah.
If you don't guard him against the hoop, he would go into the hoop and he goes for 60. If you do that, he can go in, draw 2-3 guys into him,
and then he has shooters.
And then he has shooters like Kyle Kuzma, Josh Hart,
KCP.
KCP,
and also the one from Pistons. What's his name? Reggie Bullock.
Yeah, and then some would say Lonzo Ball, but
that's a wild card. I mean, yeah, he's a wild card. But they need Lonzo Ball because defensively they have been shockingly bad since
and
LeBron James.
also they have Ingram if he can find a good his college level.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at this was an interesting stat that LeBron James, while he was injured, the Lakers was actually 7th in they were rated 7th in their defensive stats. Now, after LeBron has joined the squad again, now they're 25th. So a lot of problems defensively, and they need to correct those mistakes that they do defensively. But yeah, enough talk of the Lakers. Let's talk about the East, because the East is more entertaining than the West.
They actually have the best. You wouldn't think that, but they have the best. They have the 2 best teams in the NBA right now.
They are.
They have the Bucks, who are. If you take just with wins and losses, they are 46 and 14, so they've lost 14 games. Then you have what is called the net rating. The net rating is a stat that is measured as the team's point differential between offense and defense per 100 ball possessions. So it's a good. You could say that it's a good way of measuring the
how effective a team is.
Yeah. And if you take the Milwaukee Bucks, they are tremendously good.
And they are a storyline in itself because last year they were 6th in the East.
Yeah.
And they fired Jason Kidd. There was a lot of turmoil in the Bucks organization.
They moved to a new arena this year.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that the best acquisition of this season is Mike Budenholzer, who's the coach of Milwaukee Bucks, because he has changed everything. He has built up the system.
I can remember because last season, the Bucks was one of the worst teams of playing the way NBA should be played right now with the 3-pointers.
Yeah,
they were one of those teams who shot the least amount of 3-pointers.
Yeah.
Right now, I can't remember if they're how high up they are, but I think they're in the top 5 in the NBA of shooting 3-pointers. And then all of a sudden, they have in the start of the season, Brook Lopez, who was the best 3-point the best 3-point shooter in the NBA.
Yeah, I mean that guy shoots the 3-point like a guard.
Yeah,
I saw a game where he hit 7 for 7. He was just beginning to make step back threes.
Yeah.
I've never seen a center make step back threes.
No, but taking the net rating, the Milwaukee Bucks wins per 100 ball possessions with 9.21 points, and then you have the Golden State in second place with 6.76 points per game.
Yeah,
or per 100 ball possessions. So it's almost 2.5 points that the Milwaukee Bucks are better.
Yeah,
it's
and
crazy.
Also they're really efficient on defense. That defense is scary right now because everyone in that team in the starting lineup they can play defense. I mean, Giannis, as much as he is improved offensively, his defense just keeps getting better also.
Yeah, and we will talk about this later with the awards and all that. But I think he would be the MVP of the league.
Yeah, definitely think so too.
If you take Giannis out of the Bucks, they wouldn't go into the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, just think about this. He's probably the only superstar right now who doesn't have that second guy, a second star on his team.
Yeah, exactly.
If he gets injured,
who should it be? You had Chris Middleton, who was an All-Star this year, but
it's only because they were first.
Yeah, he's not an All-Star caliber player if in a regular season.
No,
I would say he's a good player, but he's not an All-Star caliber player.
I would say Brook Lopez is doing as much damage as Chris Middleton does right now because Giannis is just the most important player on that team by far. Yeah, but then we also have Toronto Raptors, just as you talked about with Marc Gasol. They're a brilliant trade for them because they win now situation.
Yeah,
you have the 76ers who has acquired Tobias Harris, Boban.
Yeah, but I think it's funny because we talked about this before we started the podcast on the awards we should talk about.
Yeah.
And then you have a GM, the GM in the 76ers, Elton Brand. In the start of the season, he traded he traded for Jimmy Butler. That's an All-Star caliber player coming in.
Yeah.
Then later on, then they trade for on the trade deadline, they trade for
Tobias Harris.
Tobias Harris
after he hit the game winner.
Yeah. So you have Ben Simmons as a point guard. You have JJ Redick as a shooting guard. You have, I wouldn't say that Ben Simmons is the point guard. He's probably the small forward.
Yeah, and then he's the point forward.
Yeah, he's the point forward. And then you have Jimmy Butler as a guard. Then you have Tobias Harris as a forward, and you have Joel Embiid as the center.
And
you have the best big man in the league. You have one of the best point forwards in the league. And then you have an almost All-Star caliber player in Tobias Harris.
And then they have an all-time great shooter in JJ Redick.
Yeah, and a veteran.
Yeah.
They don't have as deep as a squad as the Toronto Raptors.
No.
They have an insane deeply squad.
Yeah.
But I would say the starting five can compete with the Warriors.
Definitely, because you have to remember Tobias Harris, because he fits perfectly in that system because he's such a lethal three-point shooter.
Yeah.
But he can create his own shots or handle the ball. So
all of those people in the starting five can go out and take the game-winning shot.
Yeah, they can. Yeah.
And then you have the Boston Celtics, who haven't played as great as they should have. Or the 76ers also haven't played that great of the season. Right now, the 76ers is in fourth place and the Celtics in the fifth. Before the season, I said that the Boston Celtics would win the championship.
I thought so too, because they were really impressive what they did without Kyrie last year.
Yeah, they had Kyrie, acquired Kyrie and Gordon Hayward last year. Yeah. Gordon Hayward played 2 minutes, got out with a horrible knee injury. Coming back this season, Kyrie was out for the whole postseason. And then you have a guy like Jason Tatum coming up right now. Then you have Jaylen Brown. You have Al Horford. You have
Terry Rozier.
Yeah, Terry Rozier. You have Aaron Baines. You have Theis.
Yeah.
They have
Marcus Smart.
Yeah, I would say that they can put the best defensive lineup in the league on the court.
Totally. They just need to figure out their internal troubles, because that has been a lot of. There's been a lot of stories about that.
Yeah.
So if they can figure that out, they will be okay in the playoffs. But I think it's going to be a battle between Bucks and Raptors, because they're just another level in the East.
Yeah, but actually my story of the East this year, it's quite funny. It's the Indiana Pacers.
Yeah.
Right now they're in third place. Third.
Yeah. They're surprising.
Without Victor Oladipo.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. Their best player right now, I would say, is Sabonis.
Yeah.
And he's not a guy you would say he's so great a basketball player.
You would not say he's a above average player. That's what you would say about Sabonis. So yeah, but they're really good as a unit. And I don't know, how long is Oladipo injured?
Well, for the rest of the season.
Yeah. Okay, so they're not winning it.
No, but still, they're in the last 10 games. I think I can see it here. The last 10 games, they're 8-2. 8-2, and that's without Victor Oladipo.
But I think most of the teams will beat them though in the playoffs. But it's really impressive. It's really impressive.
Yeah, they almost beat the Cleveland Cavaliers last year.
Yeah, they did.
They went to Game 7, and the only thing that changed was that George Hill came in the break. He was injured, was listed as an injured player before the game, and then they were on the edge of losing the game. And then after the break, George Hill was in his outfit, going in, playing basketball. I mean,
it was into that third quarter, the Cleveland, they turned it around because LeBron just went God mode on them.
But also I would say one of the other stories is the Washington Wizards.
Yeah, how disappointing that
They have
is.
2 of the best guards in the league.
Yeah.
And they can get along.
Yeah, their reputation regarding Beal and Wall is just notorious at this point.
Then they have a player like Otto Porter Jr., who's a really, really good player.
Yeah, but
they have Dwight Howard, a good center.
Yeah,
and I think still this is the funniest story of all of the whole season, with John Wall torn something in his ankle at home. He just fell, torn something in his... what?
It doesn't really make sense, but that team's going to be rebuilt.
Yeah.
He's going to get traded, John Wall. And
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No, his Supermax contract.
Yeah, no one's
going to touch that.
Yeah. It's just bad situation for Wizards because it's going to be really hard to rebuild because they have to build it around John Wall again.
2 seasons ago, I was in Washington, D.C., when they was in the playoffs and they played against the Celtics and watched one of the games. They won that game with around 30 points.
Yeah,
against the Celtics.
Yeah,
it was the season where Isaiah Thomas was. Yeah, he was almost MVP.
Yeah, he was third in MVP voting, I think.
And that series went into 7 games.
Yeah,
but the Wizards I saw there, it's almost identical to the Wizards there is to this day. If they were healthy, if the locker room was functioning, then I would say that they would be in the top 4 maybe.
But anyone who has played sports, they know that if you don't just put a bundle of great players together and then everything will work out. It's just chemistry is really everything. So.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the awards because
I'll just go back to the Western Conference because it's also interesting seeing who gets into the playoffs again, but also who gets the first spot. Because you have the Golden State Warriors who probably would get the first spot.
Yeah,
but then you still have Denver Nuggets. They are 2. They are 2 wins behind, so they're 1.5 game behind.
It's really remarkable how bad they were at defense last year.
Yeah,
and now they're one of the best defensive teams. Yeah. Like overnight, it's the same squad.
Yeah,
it doesn't make sense sometimes.
Yeah, and then you have my team, the Oklahoma City Thunders.
I think they can challenge the Golden State.
Yeah, I think those 2 are going in the conference finals against each other.
Did you see Paul George's game winner?
Oh yes,
that was one of the craziest shots I've ever seen.
But I would say those people who says that James Harden could win the MVP, for me, Paul George is above him in the MVP race.
Yeah.
Because first of all, they have a better record, and then you see at the team that James Harden has around him, it's much better than the Oklahoma.
Yeah, I agree.
So when you take that into consideration, the way he's played the last 1.5 months, it's almost 40 points per game.
Yeah, it is.
And he's and game winner after game winner after game winner.
And the obvious advantage he has that he's much better than James Harden defensively.
Exactly.
So yeah, I will put Paul George in front of James Harden.
And looking at how great the Oklahoma City Thunder are, they have Russell Westbrook, who has a triple double, or averaging a triple double again this season. But
He's just a stat pattern.
when you see a game with him, he goes up, he loses his head, just goes up, shooting a 3-pointer. He's shooting under 20% this season.
Yeah, and he's shooting 68% from the free throw.
Yeah.
It's usually over 80%.
Yeah. So if he catches fire in a series against the Warriors, the Golden State are through.
But OKC, I think their strength is their defense.
Yeah, because also their best defensive player, Roberson, he's out still.
Yeah.
But he would some say he would get back to the playoffs. If he gets back to the playoffs, they can have Russell Westbrook, who is a pretty good defender.
If he wants to.
Yeah. He's second or third in steals per game.
Yeah.
Then you have Paul George, who was the leader in steals per game. You have Steven Adams under the basket. So I'm looking forward to see the Thunder. Yeah, but for me, I think they would go through against the Warriors.
You think so? You're pretty sure about it?
I'm not pretty sure, but because the Golden State Warriors have had trouble in the locker room with Draymond Green and Kevin Durant this season.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a tough series. I can imagine a series like Golden State against Houston last year.
Yeah, exactly. I think it would be 50-50. But then you have the Oklahoma City Thunder. They can have this... They can turn off the pace on the defensive end.
Yeah, they can. Yeah, they can.
And I wouldn't say that Bill Donovan is a good coach. It's more the players that have...
I think, you know what? I think it's the departure of Carmelo Anthony.
Yeah.
He just wrecks teams right now.
Yeah, look at the Rockets.
Yeah, nobody wants Anthony anymore.
No, but yeah, moving on to the awards.
Yeah, so let's just take the obvious one first. Let's
MVP.
just take Rookie of the Year first. Let's
yeah.
just take that one first because it's just obvious. It's
Yeah,
Luka Doncic.
I would, it's going to be Doncic, but I would also say that it's obvious in the MVP race also.
Yeah,
I can't see anybody else than Giannis taking it. If the Thunder goes totally unexpected through a win streak right now with Paul George averaging these 40 points, he would be the MVP.
Well, yeah.
But I don't think so.
It's not going to happen because Giannis has been incredibly consistent.
Yeah, but I also saw that of all teams in the NBA, the Thunder have the worst program going forward over the next games until the postseason. So right now they're in third place.
Yeah.
They need Paul George going.
How many games are they behind with Denver Nuggets in terms of winning?
They are 3, but they are 4.5 game back of the Warriors. So they need to gain 5 games on the Warriors.
Yeah.
And I don't think they're gonna do that, but who knows?
Yeah, who knows? So on to the next one. Defensive player?
I think it's tough.
Yeah.
You have a player like Rudy Gobert who's pretty essential to the Utah Jazz.
Yeah, but they were really bad in the beginning of the season.
Yeah, but right now they're
really good right now.
They're 6th in the West right now.
But when I look at these awards, I always look at something, consistency.
Yeah.
I always look at consistency. That's why Giannis is the MVP for me by far, because James Harden hasn't been that good all season long, and Paul George, he needed some time to get to the level where he is right now.
Yeah.
So, and when you talk about defensively, that's why I'm not gonna put Rudy Gobert in the conversation right now. Kawhi Leonard, always an obvious one.
Yeah, but I don't think that he's gonna take it because he just went a little under the radar.
Yeah.
Because the Raptors have so good a great defense without him also. So
true.
I think it's tough saying who is going to get the.
Yeah, it's never really clear with the defensive.
No, if we need to take some of the stats going in here, you have Paul George with most steals, He has 129 the whole season. I can't remember how many he has per game.
But I don't think he's going to win the Defensive Player of the Year because he's in the MVP conversation.
Yeah.
So,
but
it's really hard this season, actually. I don't.
I'm just trying to find out with steals. Russell Westbrook is second. Then you have Robert Covington, and James Harden, Jimmy Butler, Chris Paul, and then Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah.
So Kawhi Leonard is. Maybe it's going to be him, but I still think it's going to be Rudy Gobert.
Yeah.
Because he's so essential to the way that Utah plays defense.
It could be, but I think I'm putting Kawhi in front of Rudy Gobert.
Yeah, but then you can go back and you can also say Giannis, but
yeah, but he's the MVP.
but still, for me, Giannis probably is the best, one of or the second best defensive player.
Yeah,
and he has played almost every game this year.
Yes.
Kawhi hasn't, so maybe that goes into consideration. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about anyone from the Boston Celtics, but
they haven't been great at defense this year.
No.
Then you have Paul George in Oklahoma.
I'll probably say Paul George, Kawhi, or Rudy Gobert.
Yeah.
About those guys.
I think that is going to be the top three.
Yeah, sure.
Then moving on to most improved player.
Pascal Siakam.
Yeah.
He's pretty good right now.
Yeah. I also think he won one player of the week.
Yeah, he did. He hit a game winner.
Yeah.
Who else is there? I really hope that Donovan Mitchell would take it to another level, but he disappointed me.
Yeah.
De'Aaron Fox.
Yeah.
De'Aaron Fox.
I would say also Buddy Hield.
Yeah, Buddy Hield. It's actually pretty surprising how Sacramento Kings, they actually have a bright future right now. They screwed everything up with DeMarcus Cousins. And he's like one of the best centers in the modern basketball. I think for the last 3 years until now Joel Embiid is the best player at that position. I think before Joel Embiid it was DeMarcus Cousins.
Yeah. But I think that you could argue that Anthony Davis, center forward.
Yeah, but
because if you take him as a center, I would say he's a better player than Joel Embiid. But as a true center, you have Joel Embiid. Sure. You don't have anybody else like him.
And he's really followed the advice that he needs to use his post game more. Yeah. That's what's different from this season from last.
I think a person who I don't think he's gonna win it, but Joel Embiid could do it because he's playing better this year than he's ever done.
Yeah, sure.
But he's always been good, so I don't think he's going to win it.
The problem with him is always his condition. Can his body take all the playing time?
Exactly.
That's the problem with Joel.
Maybe you could also argue with Tobias Harris with what he did with the Clippers, because he was their star in quotation marks.
He was actually pretty important for them before.
Oh, that reminds me, defensive player, Harrell from the Clippers, maybe.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to win it.
No, but
he's good.
He's good at defense. So
he is. Montrezl Harrell. He's like the only forward I know that is kind of the sixth man. But kind of, because he's
but that goes also that can also go into the sixth man of the year.
Yeah,
and that could probably be Harrell.
Yeah,
I don't see anybody else.
I think it's gonna be Lou Williams again, to be honest.
But hasn't he started too much games for the Clippers?
Is he? I don't really follow those games after Harris got traded. I got to admit, man. Since he got traded, I was like, yeah.
I
maybe next year if Kawhi and.
I actually don't know who the sixth man of the year. Maybe Dennis Schroeder, but he's also.
He's actually pretty good.
But I also think he has played too much games because Russell Westbrook was out for
Yeah,
the
he
most of
was.
the start of the season. It's actually quite funny because I don't see anybody who's clearly going to win it.
No. It's also a pretty hard award to judge by because it has to be a bench player, and you don't really keep an eye on bench players.
Some of them you do.
Yeah,
for example,
like Lou Williams.
Yeah, Eric Gordon.
Yeah.
At Houston. And then if Westbrook wasn't injured in the start, you could also say that
Dennis Schroeder was one.
that Dennis Schroeder would be one of those. Then you also have an Andre Iguodala at Golden State.
But it usually, those 6-man awards, it usually always goes to the one scoring a lot of points. It's always a guard scoring a lot of points, actually.
Yeah.
If you look at the last couple of years, Lou Williams, CJ McCollum,
Eric Gordon.
Yeah, Eric Gordon.
Jamal Crawford.
Yeah. It's usually those shooting guards who are just a spark plug when they come in.
Yeah, I actually don't know who. I think before before the season, I would have said maybe Jaylen Brown or Terry Rozier, because the bench of the Boston Celtics was so deep.
Yeah.
And you had Gordon Hayward coming back, but he has got
VanVleet.
Yeah, that could also be. But also you had Siakam or Anunoby from the Toronto Raptors.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people who can go into this. Going into this discussion of who is going to be the 6th man of the year.
So yeah, that's pretty hard, but I would probably take. Who will I take? It's really hard.
I would say if he has not played too much games, I would say Dennis Schroeder.
Yeah.
I need to stay with the Oklahoma City Thunder. I need to do it. I can't go away from them. Then coach of the year.
That's Mike Budenholzer. It has to be.
Yeah.
There's no discussion there. What he has done with that Bucks team is just really impressive.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about this earlier. I mean, that team was 6th last year. Now they're 1st. They were last in 3-point efficiency. Now they're 1st.
I have quite a little outsider to it. Doc Rivers.
No.
If the Clippers get a playoff spot with the team that the Clippers have, had before the trade, it was you didn't have a star player.
No, not a superstar in the sense.
And the way they were first in the NBA and but also just in the West, who was so competitive for so many many weeks, it was insane.
Yeah, it was.
But also I can't remember the name of the Denver Nuggets coach.
Oh yeah, what's his name now? Something with Mike. His name is Mike.
I can just try to look it up. But the way that they played Mike Malone.
Yeah, Mike Malone.
Yeah. It's also.
Yeah, he's a contender.
Second in the West.
Yeah.
They have Nikola Jokic. Okay. Who does they have otherwise?
They also have the new coach for the Raptors. He has also done a good job.
Nick Nurse.
Yeah.
Also.
His last name is Nurse.
Yeah.
That's cute.
And I before the season, I would have said Brett Brown maybe.
Yeah, Brett Brown.
Brett Brown or the guy from Boston.
Yeah.
The young guy.
We should know his name. They always talk about him.
Yeah. I can't remember his name.
That's actually pretty embarrassing.
Yeah. Brad Stevens.
Yeah.
That's quite. Yeah, it's quite funny who's going to get that one, but it probably will be.
It's Budenholzer. That's just remarkable what he's done with that team.
Then
hopefully he doesn't lose Giannis going into the playoffs.
Yeah, then GM, you didn't have a clue before we went in because you don't know any GMs.
I don't really focus on that stuff. But I'm 76ers GM. He has made a lot of work.
That's Elton Brand.
Yeah, Elton Brand.
But he has been the most active. But
I think he's made a lot of good trades because it was time for 76ers to go from the trust the process to win now mentality. They need that right now.
Yeah.
Especially they need to surround Embiid and Simmons with talent because we all saw what happened when Boston Celtics just abused Simmons' lack of shooting.
Yeah.
So now you have a game close in Jimmy Butler, you have a game close in Tobias Harris, and as you said...
I actually saw a game with the 76ers against the Blazers a couple of days ago. And in that game, I think it was CJ McCollum who was guarding Ben Simmons.
Yeah.
He just went back into the against the basket and then just let Simmons shoot threes. Because he doesn't shoot. He can't shoot.
He can't shoot. And also, one of the funniest memes I saw yesterday, the NBA memes I saw, was... I think it was that game because CJ McCollum was behind the free throw line and he has so much space, Ben Simmons. And then the title says that the disrespectful is too powerful on this one.
Yeah. So we could talk for about this for hours.
Yeah. Ben Simmons needs to get a shot. He needs to get a shot.
But I would say that it's been a pleasure actually to speak in the podcast.
Yeah.
Not just sitting there listening to you guys.
He's usually the silent hero who never speaks.
In this episode, or in this special episode, it's Babar who's the silent guy because he doesn't know a damn thing about basketball. Well, his own words.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's...
Or he doesn't give a fuck about basketball, so to say.
That's better.
But...
I think we're going to take a review of the season when it's ended or when we are in the playoffs where we try to get more basketball minds in to talk about this.
Yeah, I mean, it was about damn time we made this possibility to actually make NBA episodes.
Yeah.
So
I can't stop talking about it.
Yeah,
I'm just so excited.
So next time, I can imagine when the regular season just have ended and there's a small break up to the postseason, so we can have a reaction on the
standings and the matchups going forward.
Yeah, and talk about who we think, make our predictions. Maybe we can make a wager out of it.
Yeah,
in the podcast.
So yeah, thanks for having me. Or
you're welcome, Rasmus. He spanked me a lot to come into the episode, so it was about damn time to make him shut up. So yeah, so next time we get an NBA episode is right up to the playoffs.
Yeah.